I'd like to call to order the meeting of the City of Milton Design Review Board for September 1st, 2009. Let's pledge allegiance first, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll go through an introduction of the board members. We'll start on my left.
Vince Pisano.
Terry Herr.
Kathy Cook.
Vic Jones.
Daryl Jan Porter.
The first item on the agenda for this evening is the demo review of a pool house. And, oh, the meeting minutes? Yes, okay. Those were for April, May, June, and July.
I have March too,
March.
just to be safe.
March.
Yeah.
Through August.
March through August. Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the March through August Design Review Board minutes.
Do we have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, who seconded that?
did.
Del Jan.
Thank you.
The first item is a demo review of a pool house, and that's at 295 Crooked Stick Drive, James Bottoms. And it's noted that staff is going to request a deferral of this till the October meeting. Is that true?
Yes, the litigation is still ongoing. They haven't
Okay.
gone to court yet, so.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the review of a demolition of a house at 13135 Providence Road. It's George and Carmel Ruby. Would you please step up to the mic and give your name and address and tell us a little about it?
My name is George Ruby. I live right next door to the property, 13125 Providence Road. And we've owned that property for a little while, and originally we were planning to build, but plans have changed, and the house has been standing vacant for years. It's, as you can see from the photographs, it's been vandalized, and it's just an eyesore, and we'd like to get it off and make the property more desirable. I do have one request that I put on the card. One variance to the plan that I gave you, if possible. We're showing type C fencing, tree-safe fence, because we were originally going to build, so we wanted to put something that was a little more permanent. I'd like to request type A if possible to save a little money.
Any public comment with regards to this demolition? Any questions by?
Are you demolishing any trees? Or?
No. No, we have had the arborist out, and there's nothing there that would be of concern to him anyway.
I'll make a motion to approve the request for demolition at 13135 Providence Road with the change from type C silt fence to type A, and the requirement that orange tree-safe fence be installed or tape as approved or required by the city arborist.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next item is a site review for a patio addition at Windward Village. That's at 12990 Alpharetta Highway, and it's a Lewis Yawn. Don't think they have a representative here. We've, I think, elected to go ahead and move on this without a representative.
What is Y Studio?
I think that's the design company, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
actually the builder, I guess. The only comment I would have is that if they put umbrellas out there, that the umbrella color should match any awnings that they have throughout the center. I think they're black, I'm not sure, but
Absolutely.
I think that would be the only comment I would have.
Okay.
Oh.
Any public comment relative to this? I know it hasn't been presented, but it's basically an addition of a outdoor serving area on the end of a shopping center that's currently under construction.
Nobody. Since nobody's here to speak, I will make a motion to approve the patio addition at Windward Village, 12990 Alpharetta Highway, with the condition that any umbrellas that are placed out there, the fabric shall match the approved awnings for that center.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is a building review for a renovation of a barn for the Roswell Clock and Antiques at Mid-Broadwell Road, Larry Davenport.
I was here about a year or so ago with a much bigger project.
Yeah.
And things change in a year.
Yeah.
So what you're looking at is a much scaled down, sort of an intermediate project, I hope. So this is what I'd like to do right now to get me by for my own personal business and put the rest of it on hold until the economy picks up and I see more what's going on in Crabapple. It's pretty much it's just a scaled down version of what y'all saw about a year ago. There's no enlarging of the footprint. It's just essentially putting an entrance on the side of a barn and then repainting it.
So it's a repainting of the roof. It's not a replacement. It's a repainting to the green.
Yes, it could. There's a couple leaks in the roof, and I got a quote on getting a whole new roof put on there. So I'm going to see. It'd be the same color, but if it's salvageable and it can be repaired, then we're going to repair it and paint it. The whole building's going to be painted.
Right. Well, I have a concern with the color, the dark green color. We asked staff to take some photos of the other roofs that are in that area,
Right.
and they're really similar to what you have already with
The white.
the natural galvanized look. But there's some of the photos of like the Miltons, the lighter color. The lighter
Right.
color is, I guess, more green in architecture anyway, that you're supposed to be going away from the darker colors. We do have the red that exists out there, but we don't have the green color that you're looking for.
Yeah, I got a decorator to go out there with me, and I think her idea was with the green roof, it's sort of like blended in with the greenery and the trees and so forth. It wouldn't jump out. And what's not shown, there's a house on the property too, and it's got a red roof, a red house, and so trying to get away from just red, red, red. The roof that's on there now is a weathered white roof, and the only trouble is it shows mildew, it streaks, and so forth. So I'm open to any color. This is what she thought would look good.
Would you be open to the more, I guess this is still a color, but it's a lighter color that's on the Milton's
Yeah.
restaurant?
Actually, that's not really a color.
It's not
No, that's standard gal balloon.
this one, but this one's
No.
not.
Yeah. No, that's
Yeah, there's
it's
a
just the
different
color of that
color
photograph.
Okay, so the photograph's a little,
Yes.
so I guess though it's more of a putty tan color.
It's silver.
It is, but he'd have to replace
Yeah.
to get that look. I'm trying to find
Yeah.
a color that would be similar.
If you wanted to go towards a putty color or the tan color or something like that, it would,
Is that really silver? It's just coming out bad in the
yeah.
photo?
'Cause I think that's the same picture.
Yes.
Well, I'm even, I mean, I'm okay with silver. It's just the dark green just introduces another color that's
Yeah,
not out there.
it's too dark.
That is not an issue with me. I mean,
Okay.
this is just what she thought would look good, so,
The stair structure at the end of the
right.
building is going to remain, is it?
Yes.
Yes, it just doesn't show in this elevation.
Is it to the,
It would be
To the right or the left?
to the right as you're looking at well, I guess the side of the building. And I was going to paint that the same color as the siding, sort of make it just, go away.
I think colors that are similar on the Miltons would fit that building.
Yeah.
And it's far enough away that it wouldn't look
Yeah,
exactly the same.
see, I was worried, that's the thing about the red, because I have, red house, red roof, red
Right.
brick, so we're going to try to get away from that, but I don't have a problem with that at all.
Great.
And you're right, it's far enough away, you're not looking at, the same
And
thing.
those colors really pop. I mean, they look good, but they're also neutral enough that they're not going to be trendy.
Right.
Kind of like the hunter green can be more of a trendy color. And you see a lot of, I think what's happened is they've put them on so many shopping centers that now it's moved away from having that historic feel. And this is I think the Milton's color scheme would look better on your building.
That would be fine.
Okay.
Any public comment? Any further questions from the board?
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the building review for the barn, Roswell Clock and Antiques on Mid-Broadwell Road, subject to the condition that the color scheme is similar to the Milton's restaurant
Okay.
instead of the colors presented here today. Any chance we can change Roswell to Milton Clock?
You might very well can do that.
I don't know if I can condition that, but we can request that.
No, it's going to happen. I was trying to do a transition, have two places and sort of guide people out there, get it going, and then the name changes, no problem.
Yeah.
No, but that's in the future.
I mean, we would definitely rather see the Milton Clock instead of the Roswell Clock.
So would I. So would I.
But we do know you have an ongoing business that you have to keep on going, so.
Yeah, but once you get people trained to go there, then the name change is not that big of a deal.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. The next item is building review for townhomes of Deerfield Landing, the Manorview portion. Jim Jacoby, is there anyone here representing?
Mr. Chair, he did mention that he was going to be here late because he has another meeting, and he asked to actually be put at the end of the agenda.
Okay. Would the board approve moving them to the end?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. We'll move that item to the end. Next item would be a courtesy review for a variance at Crooked Creek subdivision. The entrance wall, columns, and fence at 14250 Creek Club Drive.
Hello, I'm Jim Compton. I live at 14390 Creek Club in Crooked Creek, Milton, Georgia. Last DRB meeting, we presented our plan to add an additional front entrance wall and fence section, which would be on the east section of the neighborhood, and to match the existing fence and wall section that we have. since we presented, if you want me to go back and review, I can do that, or you guys made several comments and suggestions of things that we needed to add, and we've done that. I can go right into that or give you a review if you'd like to go through that as well.
I guess just the changes.
It's just a little more detail that they were looking for from the last meeting on the plans, and which we've done. Basically, what we're masking, or just the same, replicating the same design and rock wall and fence entrance that we have existing on the other side of the entrance.
It has changed quite a bit from the previous one, because we're book matching the entrance
What's that?
look. You were book matching the entrance look with the curved wall or and it looks like it's now pulled out substantially away from the other location.
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
The area by the entrance over here, this was way over here.
No, the location is the same location that was on the last plan, where it started. Because there's existing rock wall on this curved planted area around, so we have to work around that existing rock wall.
Yeah, this.
So you see where all the existing planting and shrubbery and trees.
Right, but it was behind that, and it came around it, similar to what happens on
We haven't changed that from the other design. The location's the same. Well, all we did is showed you the detail of the fence sections, and this is identical to the location that we had last time.
Okay. My memory's bad.
And the only thing that we did is we noted the different sections. We noted the different section design detail. So as you can see, we have detail A, and it shows that on the drawing where the fence section of detail A is, which is the column with the scalloped or swooping rock wall into the first column, followed by section B, which is approximately 160 feet, where we have the knee wall between the columns and the fence on the wall. After that, as the grade starts dropping down below the road, then we'll just have the columns with fencing between it, and then once it gets down in the very bottom of the grade, then we just change the fence, extend it all the way to the end of the property. And those sections are noted on this drawing.
Is it a 5-foot high or a 6-foot high fence itself?
The first column is 16 feet. That's what we're looking for a variance on. The second section, when we have the fence on top of the knee wall, that section is 5 foot. And then once we just do the fence only, that becomes a 6-foot fence, 6 foot high.
Okay. Yeah.
So this gives a lot more detail on the specific design on how the fence carries out through that whole section of property, which is pretty lengthy.
So you're asking for both the variance and the column height and the fence height?
And the fence height. I think last time there was an interpretation that the fence height was 8 feet, and I think we found out it was 55 inches or something to that effect. So we had to go back and redo the variance for not only the column height, but also the fence height. But the materials of construction would match identically to what we have. It's natural stone with a buff colored mortar. So it's going to look exactly the same on either side of the fence, or on either side of the entrance, excuse me.
It's my understanding that this type of fence, well, it doesn't match the overlay requirements, but you're trying to match something that you already have.
That's right.
Exists.
Yeah, we felt like putting the existing, approved fence wouldn't look quite right next to our existing fence. So we wanted to kind of have a matching design on both sides of the entrance. And and the fencing and the wall structure was something that was in the works from the original developer, who originally did not do that work, went through some financial troubles or whatever the scenario was, but that wall was never put in. And so it's always kind of been in the works, and, we're doing some other work in the neighborhood with our amenities package, and we wanted to tie everything together to make the neighborhood appealing and architecturally and security-wise with the fencing along the Highway 9 section.
Well, we can't comment on the variance as far as yes or no,
understand.
but as far as the, overall aesthetics and the way they've transitioned it, it makes some sense from
If it
my
matches what they
standpoint.
Yes.
already have. Is there, let me see, residents here that want to speak?
Yeah. Is there any public comment with regards to this?
Yes.
My name is Bob Crystal. I live at 3350 Compass Way in Milton. I'm the president of the Crooked Creek HOA, and I live in the section of Crooked Creek that is closest to Highway 9. I've asked a couple of neighbors who live right along Highway 9 to attend tonight because they've encountered some issues regarding security. I wasn't quite sure if it was appropriate to have them tell you about their experiences. I've also invited them to attend the
Board of
Board of
Appeals.
Zoning Appeals hearing, where I think would be more
It
relevant.
would have more application there
Yeah.
than with us. We're only going to review it for the aesthetics.
Aesthetics.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
That answers my question.
is there any other comment from the
No,
board? or-
and this is just a courtesy review, so I don't think we have to vote.
No. There won't be a formal vote
Our
on
understanding
that.
is that we could get a conditional approval from you all with the, predicated on the variance of the height columns and so forth.
Yeah, I don't think we find any objection with the
Aesthetics.
aesthetics of
Mhm.
the look or those types of things, but, the ultimate say is the BZA with regards to
Okay.
height and those types
Okay.
of issues.
So I just want to make sure we satisfied your committee here that we've done everything we need to do, and now it's just a matter of getting approval for the height
Correct, yes.
limits. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is a courtesy review of Robert Hargrave's horse farm at 14255 Hopewell Road.
Is there a board?
I'm going to give y'all a picture that may help that I don't think you've got of an existing shed barn on another part of the property. I'm sorry, I only got one. But that'll help bring to life. They're the same colors. It also is complementary of the home.
I'm Scott Reese, Bromelo Reese and Associates, doing business at 13685 Highway 9, Milton, Georgia. I'm representing Robert Hargreaves. Mr. Hargreaves is proposing to build a covered riding arena and a stable, and the topography of his property is such, and the proximity to an NRCS flood control lake and dam that has an emergency spillway overflow is causing him to ask for a stream bank variance to place the arena in the City of Milton stream buffer zone. So in accordance with asking for the variance, we're here for a courtesy review before the Design Review Board and trying to show what he's proposing to do as far as the stable, the color scheme, and the covered arena. So I'll let Mr. Hargreaves, I guess, speak to you.
So good evening. We just wanted to come tonight, and we know we've got our variance meeting in 2 weeks, as Scott said, and just kind of present this before you and answer any questions. And of course, I'm not sure which of the two meetings would be more appropriate to get into some of the issues with the variance, probably the one in 2 weeks, but just wanted to follow protocol and be here tonight. And I've got one of my neighbors here as well that showed up. So,
Are you, the covered arena?
Mm-hmm.
I guess I have just a couple of questions,
Sure.
but it'll go to the variance. Why didn't you turn that parallel, I guess, to the buffer?
There are natural drainage ways that bisect that property. And you would have to basically you would alter the natural drainage way if you rotated it. The way it's placed now, not the DRB site plan, but the variant site plan, if you can see how the lake is oriented and the emergency overflow comes around, the natural, if a catastrophe occurred and the lake did overflow, the dam breach would come down in such a way that we have had to, and we have been before the NRCS board twice to work with them as far as the best placement of this arena. But basically, it's an engineering drainage question as opposed to an aesthetics or, hey, where do we want to put it? It's kind of, this is where we can put it.
Right.
And otherwise, and moving it also, you've got basically a standard floodplain with a flat area. And once it leaves that flat area, we go into 20 to 30% slopes. So if you don't put it in the flat area, whenever you cut a foot, you're grading 12 more feet to get a flat area. So we're kind of restricted by topography and the drainage way. But there are swales that cut through the floodplain, the bottom land. In this area where we have it designated, we can put it in without altering the drainage swales.
What about, now, it's just too much grading on that 1050 flat area, on the 1050, or you don't like the access to get there at the top of that hill?
There's not enough room.
Well, it'd be,
As far as the 1050.
Talking about where they're in front.
Where we,
I guess with this being an open-sided structure, though, even, if we're
Right
talking
here.
about the dam breaching, if it breached, it still could go through the structure.
That's true.
Say that one more time.
The water would go through the structure because it's open.
right, the water would go through, so it wouldn't.
I mean, it's not a hill, it's not ideal.
well, I mean, it's 1030 to 1060.
Yeah, I mean, you have
would
it,
be
you
great.
have, you have
That's why I don't see why
almost,
it wouldn't fit the other way.
I mean, there's 1/3 of it that I guess the pad would have to be graded big. I mean, can't you reduce the size of that structure?
Now, if I could speak to a couple of those things, because those are good questions, and just from a horse community perspective, and Scott, please jump in if I miss it here, but A couple things you've got to be aware of, or that really help horse people, are we need a certain size of arena. We need a certain size of arena, and this is about as small as it gets to justify building a stable. You know, the 240 by 110 or 220 by 110 that we're showing is about as small as you can do, and so to move it to some other area where you have less space, it's not even worth building, honestly. And then the other thing you have to keep in mind, if we flip it and make it run long ways versus parallel to the dam, we begin losing green space. Another thing that you get into is you really need green space to support the horses. We would really prefer not to do one of these bare horse farms. We're really not into that. We like the beautiful green look. So by keeping it back in this pasture, we get a pretty big area without tearing up a lot of additional pasture, which would take away grassing areas for the horses, if that makes sense. And then another thing that just may help is I brought you a couple of pictures, Scott, if you want to show them these, of these drainage swells where we would have to begin tearing these up to turn the thing sideways. So we lose out in 2 or 3 ways. If we turn it long ways, or if we flip it exactly opposite of the way it's shown, we start tearing into good pastures at a greater cost, and you've got to play with the drainage, whereas the way this sits now, the NRC was pretty happy with us taking overflow drainage right through that arena without creating any problem. It really worked well.
What kind of vegetation do you have in that 75-foot impervious setback? I mean, all the way from 75 to the top of bank?
Whenever this lake was built, they dredged the stream. They totally denuded the creek banks. At that time, it was the Agricultural Soil Conservation Service. And it has been in pasture up to the stream bank from that time forward, when J.D. Woods owned the property up till now. So you have a fence on the top of the stream bank, and you have fescue pasture up to the edge of the fence with no trees.
Has any of the service, I guess the NCRS, required like a mediation? If you're taking away a buffer here, you're add an additional buffer somewhere else and possibly add trees or vegetation in that area?
No, from an engineering standpoint, they want all the trees taken down.
Because they want it to form like
They
a
want-
pool if it, a
Well,
flat pool.
What they are concerned about is, a Category 4 or 5 hurricane occurs, and the lake overflows and the dam bursts. Those trees become hazards as they spill onto, as they're taken with a wave of water onto Hopewell Road. They become matchsticks. They are concerned about the non-maintenance that has occurred on that lake for the past 48 years. Their position is, if they had the money, they would take every tree out from the dam right now. And that is their standpoint. And they are negotiating. When we were there, they were trying to, if they would have had more leeway at that point, there was some legal wrangling, they would have forced Mr. Hargreaves to take every tree down along the lake.
Yeah, and picture, this is not at the creek. This is, and I took a picture of this tonight, actually, before I came. I can show you this. What they want cleared is the back of the dam, which hasn't been kept clear, so that if there is a flood, it doesn't take all those trees, knock them down, and throw them into the creek. So it's really kind of a win-win. If we can get the arena back there, we'll clear this berm for them that's got a bunch of scrub trees on it, so that if there is a overflow, it's just going to be water going through grass, not knocking down trees, pushing trees into the creek and plugging up the creek.
Will they be adding gravel parking down here? I mean, this looks like it's a business.
Well, it's for his children.
Yeah.
I mean,
They'll just be gravel access road, just.
So this isn't a business?
No, ma'am.
use? Okay. So there won't, I was just concerned about another, a gravel through the floodplain and then having another large parking area.
I mean, there will be a drive back to the arena and the stable.
Yeah, we've got to be able
But that will stay out of that buffer area, the drive.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The variance. We just need.
If we push it And you were asking about that 1050 area. The problem there, or the major problem, the covered arena needs to be viable in the area of the stable and the area of the pasture, not in the woods 600 feet away. It's, you know, that's from just a use standpoint. The other is the grading would be, I know it's relatively flat, but there's, I think, about 12 feet of elevation difference from one end to the other. And by the time you take into that and push out a 3-to-1 or 4-to-1 slope, you're clearing a big area of trees. And that's one of the wooded areas on there that he would like to stay wooded.
You will have some grading associated with the barn itself.
Well, the stable
The stable.
is going to have, it will have the back wall will be a retaining wall. So it will be a straight grade in. The back of the barn will be a retaining wall, and then the roof, and then it will come out flat. So you're cutting into the bank as you come out of the flat floodplain area.
So the stalls on the backside won't have any.
No. They will be vented into the hall of the barn, but not doors on the backside or windows or whatever. See those pictures?
And there was no concern from the NRCS about cutting into those contours
They,
on the inside?
there
of the
is
stall?
a dam breach, you know, whenever this lake was constructed in 1951 or 52, or whatever, I think it was maybe 58. Anyway, they did as-built of the emergency overflows, and there is a drainage way that's there. And as long as we stay out of that drainage way, and that's where we have placed, on the, do you see the approximate emergency spillway flow?
The arrow coming around.
Okay, that is where they have designated, this is the flow area, keep it clear, stay out of it. So we have pulled out of that area and tried to stay away from the road and, you know, tuck it in the best place, with the least amount of disturbance that we can do.
The stable would actually be better closer to the dam, but they wanted us to move it.
They didn't really want us putting it in the
dam.
emergency
In the flow,
overflow.
yeah. Yeah. Whereas, you know, I'll say, well, I'm not worried about a Category 5 hurricane blowing through Alpharetta. But they're saying, well, we would like for you to be worried about that, so if you would move that 100 feet when it occurs, it'll just go through your arena and not through your building.
But the arena floor will just be the existing floodplain, the elevation, and it's not a concrete board or?
No, it's a riding pad, like the arena at Wills Park or any of the number of ones that are in Milton now. It's just basically to give you an all-weather riding area.
And you're going to do this green just to blend in down at the bottom?
He's just looking at a muted color. I mean, I don't,
Yeah, I
have
mean,
you landed exactly, you just, I mean, it's not
We
like
haven't.
pink or purple or anything.
Right, just a muted.
Yeah, it's to all of
color.
it's to my great interest that it blends right in.
Oh, yeah. And the other building you have on this side is really nice.
Yeah, and I should have brought you a shot of the home, but these may hopefully help. That's the hill that you can actually see my home through the trees. So we want it to be all very complementary. Now, the home's a couple hundred feet away. So that's the hill the barn
property
goes
somewhere.
to, which is kind of a floodplain up.
I don't see it.
That's the scrub brush that we would clean from the dam.
Is this on his property already?
Yes.
Yeah. It's up on the other side, and there's no room left to do anything.
It's where it's near that
It's a shed.
1050. isn't it?
I didn't see it on
Oh,
there.
It's on the other plan.
Oh, okay.
It's not on the topo plan.
I showed you the entrance here, just so you can tell.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, the shed's up there by the,
This is all.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
let me see that.
This interest shot just shows you that all this stuff we're talking about doing, you can't even see from the road. It's about 1,500 feet back behind the
it's
trees.
like another one.
So, and this would pretty much stay intact off the creek right there. That's what kind of vegetation is there on the creek bank.
But it's existing pasture up to,
Right up to it.
I mean, jammed up to the edge of the bank.
Yeah, this is what it looks
much grading is
nice.
involved with the arena itself?
Well, that's pretty flat.
So it'd be pretty minimal.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at, I think, 2 feet of contour difference across that area. So it would just be, it would basically be crowned and taking out some of the muck and replacing with a footing that would be desirable there. So it's, and, you know, from an engineering standpoint, we've met with the city. There will be no import. It will be a balancing act. Any import of material will have to have an export of material. We cannot change the volume of the area as far as the floodplain. It has to say that contour area, that volume of floodable property has to stay the same.
Right.
We have to do a before and an after where it's balanced.
So you'll be running a model on that?
Yes.
or
I mean, that's,
Show no rise?
that will be, there will, from our understanding, he's going to have to do some sort of LDP plans
Okay.
since he would be building within the floodplain. So we're going to have to do, we're going to have to get approval from the city.
Okay.
So it will not be just a cursory site plan approval is what we've been led to believe.
Is the stable visible from the road?
No, it would not be.
Okay.
Now, you see the picture of the gate there? You-
So it would be behind that.
Behind the tree line on the left. It's about 1,500 feet back. It's probably on one of those flats, but you really won't be able to see it at all.
And in the northwest overlay, the barn and buildings have to be behind.
Actually, and none of my neighbors will even be able to see these structures. And I thought for the next meeting, I had one neighbor kindly show up tonight, but I thought for the next meeting I'd try and get letters. I've really only got a neighbor on each side, and then a couple thousand feet across the lake, there's a neighbor who can see the dam, but they won't really see the covered arena, so I thought I'd try and bring letters from them. But
The
it's-
height of the dam is such that it will cover the top of the arena. It'll be down below. Yeah.
One more non-labeled picture here to help you.
Because there's such a long.
There you go. It will be seen from, that's the dam, and so, of course, behind that dam is the lake, and a couple thousand feet across the lake, there are some other houses in Sunnybrook Farm, but they won't even see the structures.
You might want to, on the horse barn itself, you may want to look at doing something with the roof, because actually from your residence, your view that you're going to see is nothing but the roof.
Yeah, your other one has the other feature.
It had, the other
Cupola.
one at least has the little cupola or vent area on it.
You know, it will be there. That was missed.
Yeah.
Our apologies.
But I guess my real concern for you would be is this is the view from the riding arena, the elevation I'm seeing, but when you're looking at this building from your residence, all you're gonna see is the roof of the building. If it's buried into the earth, because there's 10 feet of cut there, so all you're gonna be seeing is the roof.
Yeah, I think you raise a good point, and
So you may wanna look at that design a little bit more and see if
Yeah.
you wanna.
we thought we would do the cupola, and we do need to work on that a little bit, but there's actually a whole tree line between my house and this barn.
And 30 feet of elevation difference.
Yeah, you've got a picture
You're
that's,
looking down on the roof even more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you might want to have those.
but there's a whole
windows and-
tree line there, and there'll actually be a gable, where you see where this gable is on the front, there'll be another matching gable on the back that we may even have like a little porch on to
I was
make
gonna
it look.
say, you may be able to enter a second level on this,
That's the
from
plan,
the upper
yeah.
area, so that
With the
you may
door.
actually want to have a upper
Sure.
facade on that upper side of it.
Where you can come out, have another door coming out
Yeah.
on that level.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, from the
The
loft
little-
level.
That is the goal, is to have
Yeah.
some sort of a loft that we would enter from the back, off of a patio. I mean, it's got to look good for our benefit as well, so.
I don't know.
Again, our recommendation would be obviously to try to stay out of the floodplain.
Not possible on this.
But it'll be your hardship case. And I guess one of the requirements is topography, based on topography, but that would be for you to present to the
the big.
Board of Appeals.
The topography is a major, but the lake itself is the big push on this one. You're just not going to many times find yourself under a government-controlled flood control lake. So they're dictating the placement.
But otherwise, I guess our aesthetic comments would be, keep the access out of the buffers and add to the roof of the shed.
Add to the roof of
And keep the muted
take
color.
a look at it from your residence side as well too, because I think that you wouldn't be happy just looking at the plain roof.
No.
Since those are deciduous trees in the winter, you'll see it really well.
Okay.
How many stalls are in here?
We'll probably do 10 or 12.
How many kids you have?
I have 3, and I
Quite a
have
few horses.
I have 5 or 6 right now, and we've got some of them boarded other places, and it's quite an ordeal to get them to ride, and
I know. We have a little barn at home.
so.
No, that's just
Okay.
crazy.
So that's it.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Has the applicant come on the,
If I could get those back all labeled, those.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Here.
Okay, we're going to do item 7 on the agenda. We've moved it to the end, which is building review for townhomes for Deerfield Landing, Manor View portion. Jim Jacoby.
Hi, how are you doing? Sorry for being a little tardy, I apologize. Got some books if y'all like to see some paint colors.
Are these pictures of other developments?
Yes, ma'am.
Not this particular?
Correct.
Did you bring pictures of this development?
No, ma'am, I didn't. I just
Okay.
brought pictures of our product.
Okay.
Well, I'm new to this, so I'm not sure what the protocol is. I don't know if it's a Q&A or what. It's my first time, so.
I'm looking at just siding on these pictures. Isn't the other supposed to be stone or?
Guess I'll give you a little brief history, if you don't mind. It was from John Thomas Homes. Our home building company is a little more than 2 years old, and we're very new to the scene, and we're rising fairly quickly from what we believe. We formed our company to basically take advantage of the bad market and are acquiring different deals that banks have been taking back. This is one of the deals where the investment bank is taking it back, and we're going to work with the investment bank to make this, to help finish out this remaining project. There's 30 units left of this project, and unfortunately for us, the remaining units are probably the least desirable units. The units that back up to the interstate and back up to the existing apartment complex, the majority of them. But we still feel confident this is going to be a good project. And obviously, Milton's a wonderful area, and we've had much success at our other development down the road called Kennewick Place, which we took over when Beezer left. And we've turned that one into just a phenomenal project. I believe one of the best in North Atlanta. And our product speaks for itself, and we're actually going to have the exact same product that we're having at Kennewick Place will be done here. It's just attached. And so what we're going to be able to provide is we have a lot of buyers coming to Kennewick who can't afford our price point, and now we have just one step down price point where they can still have the same product, and but just live in an attached environment. There's 4 owners to the company, myself being one, 3 other partners. One is Tom Rosser, and who's been in the building business for 30 years. I've got another one partner is Bill Evans Jr., and another is George Hovis. And we all have various backgrounds and disciplines, and welcome your comments and look forward to moving forward in this project and making it a successful project. So I guess I'll leave the floor open, and I will tell you the financing is in place for this project. So we are ready to start building.
I think that we've got a couple issues that we've got to kind of work through with regards to it. Some of the requirements of the overlay that this project is in requires a 2-foot offset minimum between units. You're within a few inches of being able to do that in most cases. I think in one case it's 1'6", in the other case it's 2'6". So average those out. Try to do at least the 2-foot offsets between units.
Yes, sir. And one thing that is I guess what we try to do, are you saying that offsets between ridge lines of the houses, or are you saying offsets of the face? So you're talking ridge lines. Because I guess I'll tell you what we try to do is we try to line up our townhomes along the ridge line. And you're right, that'll create the offsets on the front of the planes. But what it also does is the building codes with the fire, since the building codes have recently changed and your firewall requirements have recently changed, that it's really imperative now in townhomes that your ridge lines line up. And so that's what we're trying to do is that our ridge lines line up. And I try to intermingle our units so they have different depth units, because we agree, we like that. It creates a little varied to the streetscape. And if you notice all of our units and those pictures, we have different facade, different faces that are constantly interjecting out, and different eaves and overhangs. And we like to mix and match the pitches of the roofs to create as much character as we can, adding to the streetscape. So we...
Well, it would require a variance, is all I'm saying. And if we,
It's a requirement in the overlay.
it's a requirement in the overlay, so it will require a variance if that were to happen. What are the anticipated materials for the ends and rear of the buildings? Nothing's shown right now.
The rear of our buildings would be all hardy plank siding. The ends of our buildings right now are specified to be hardy plank sidings. I said the sides of our buildings are specified to be hardy plank sidings. We can, I guess except for the areas that are supposed to be visible from the road, you're supposed to have an architectural treatment, so we can provide an architectural treatment coming down the sides. Put a 2-foot water table continuing the water table from the front of the facade to down the side.
I'd also caution you there are some ratios within the overlay with regards to use of materials. And I think that in townhomes, there's supposed to be 75% brick or stone.
Or 75.
Yeah. So the ratio that we're seeing right now on these elevations isn't anywhere near what the overlay requirements.
Is it brick and stone on 4 sides?
On the front facade.
On the front facade.
Front facade. Okay.
One other suggestion that I would make is if it would be possible, it would help further define units would be to have a variation in the garage door.
Yes.
Its style itself. Right now it's depicting all of these with the same garage door. And since it is well over 75% of the ground plane, I think it would help give a little more visual variety to the individual units.
Okay.
Yeah, not just painting them a different color, but some that have actual glass panes in them.
We do that, and that's I'm not sure which development. Some of our developments we have glass panes, and some of our developments we do not. And what we do is we try to match what the previous developer or previous builder did. all of our subdivisions are subdivisions where we've come behind another builder. I mean, every one of them we have, and so we try to make it blend as best we can. So that garage doors is one way we can do it, and we can do that.
I guess it's a pet peeve of mine, but I like shutters that are sized to actually close over the opening where they are, or if you can't do that, just don't have them.
Right.
But to have the small little shutters next to the large windows just doesn't make a lot of historical sense or anything else. And I think it's on a few of them where you actually have some where you actually have them closed, so it's a fake window. But
Right.
I think that's very appropriate to do it. But the ones where you have the paired windows and then you just have one shutter on each side, I don't think is an appropriate.
It typically, is that on our construction drawings or color rendering?
It's on both.
But it's in here too, even on
Yeah.
your
Okay.
examples
Okay.
of other places that are similar.
So if you're going to put on shutters, at least have them sized to fit the glass opening that would be there. As far as roof venting, do you use ridge vents? Do you use ventilators in the roof? Or
We'll do ridge vents, and then I guess in some circumstances we'll also do ventilators.
well, I'd like to make sure that those weren't on the
They're always on the back
street.
side.
Yeah, always on the back side.
Yes, sir. Always on the back side, and then we also have no protrusions within 5 feet from the, I guess, end of the house.
Any other comments or questions?
Does this development have a kind of an area dimension?
Yes, sir, it does. It's actually to the right of one of the buildings out there. I'd have to see the site plan. I can't remember the unit number, but if you're looking at the site plans,
I didn't really see it on this.
yeah, it would be on the plat. It would show you the.
Plat.
Is this property pretty much tabletopped?
Yes, sir.
Must be master plan off somewhere else.
There's this.
I didn't see it on there.
Yeah.
It may be master plan for that whole area.
Somewhere else.
You
And
want
this is
that?
phase two.
What
That's
do you
the
want
phase
this?
one.
No, ma'am. Well, I mean, that's it. You need some questions?
Well,
I think we're gonna have to, well, I guess we can do public comment, but I think we're gonna have to defer this.
We could do it
Subject to.
subject to.
Okay. Meeting requirement.
Any public comment? No public comment. Sarah, you want to say something? Sorry, we skipped over you.
I'll try to make a motion to approve with conditions the Deerfield Landing on the conditions that they meet the Highway 9 overlay requirements, and they resubmit to staff new elevations that show that they do meet the requirements, which include the percent required for brick or stone on the front. They also, per this board, must wrap the design, have a finished design on the sides that have more architectural treatment than what they've presented here, continuing either the stone or the brick, whatever the main material is. Also with the condition that if shutters are used, that they actually fit the window, the glazing that they are going to cover, and the condition that they alternate designs for the garage door, not just colors, but actual designs, with some of them to have panes and then some of them solid. I think there was something you said about the vents.
Yeah.
Vents shall be on the back and not visible along the front.
Sorry, what was the last one?
It's
Ventilation,
Oh, sorry.
And they meet the overlay requirements, including the 2-foot offset. And that concludes my recommendation.
I'll second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Again, staff will, you need to resubmit documents to staff, and then if there are any discrepancies that staff sees, then they may ask you to come back to us, but as long as you meet these requirements, you should be good to go.
So, so the next buildings we build, we don't have to come back through this process every time we build a new building, do we? We're grandfathered from here on out just to build like this.
I don't know, after you build the
Nice
first
try.
ones, we may
No,
not
just-
let you know.
This is just for this development.
So I mean, so every time we go to start a new building in the project, we come back through this board?
If you're gonna keep building this, then you're fine. If you're gonna change your designs drastically, then you'll come back.
Oh, yeah, we won't
This
change
is
it.
it.
It is same thing. Yes, same thing. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And our last item is a courtesy review. Got lost. Traffic calming.
Good evening. My name is Carter Lucas. I'm the Public Works Director here at the City of Milton. Before Sarah gets started with some of the specifics, I just wanted to give you a little bit of background on why we're here tonight and what we hope to accomplish. Over the past few months, we've been working on updating the city's traffic calming program. It's a program that the city works in cooperation with various neighborhoods to try and ease speeding issues through the neighborhoods. Key component of that program is the development of a couple of specific project details that our consultants have been working on. And so what you see before you tonight are the details that they have come up with. And what we thought would be important would be to establish some standards for the city, both to simplify the process when we get to design with each individual neighborhood, as well as to get a handle on what the costs for these types of measures would be. When we presented this to council a couple of months ago, we were tasked with bringing those details to the Design Review Board to get some input and feedback on those portions of the details that would be discretionary. And so as we look at these, there are some of these items that are established really from an engineering standpoint, and we really need to stick with those portions of the details. But from an aesthetic point of view, there are some discretionary items on there, how these things look and how they relate to the community, that we would like to get some input and feedback from you on. Under the current program, or actually under the program that we're proposing to council, there's a 50-50 split in the cost. And so the community is going to share 50% of the cost on the construction of the entire program within their neighborhood. One of the things we wanted to do was establish kind of a base detail that would set the price that the city would pay, their 50%. Additional measures on top of that, any aesthetic improvements to those details that the community wished to have, they would then bear the cost of those. And so what we'd like to do tonight is recommendations or comments from the board we'll take back to City Council, and we'll make a determination on whether those comments become part of the base standard detail that the city is responsible for paying a portion of, or whether they become an enhancement that then the community can choose to do if they would like to, and the cost would be borne by that community. So Sarah's going to kind of go through the details that we've presented. We tried to do 4 different details that would be available to the community. Public Works would work with the community on how and where these would be installed, but they're vertical, so speed humps, bumps, lumps, those types of things, and also horizontal type details, where we shift the road, chicanes, narrowing, center islands, And those are the types of places where landscaping might be important, and we could have some input on that, some variety of landscaping. Obviously, we can't do things that would become an obstruction or possible danger to the traveling public. But we'll certainly take all of our recommendations back to council, let them review them, and decide how they get worked into the overall program.
What about the maintenance? Who maintains them
The city would maintain those facilities
completely?
completely,
Including landscaping if it were a part of the,
including landscaping. Well, I'll take that back to some degree, depending on the measure that's installed. Traffic circles, anytime we have large landscaping, it may be possible that we work out an agreement with the homeowners association that they would maintain those. If the homeowners association or the community wanted to go beyond what we established as the city standard minimum detail, they would be responsible for that. But if the council chooses some of those landscaping measures to be included as the base detail that the city is participating in, then most likely the city would then accept maintenance responsibility for those types of measures.
Okay.
city can't even mow the sides of the roads right now.
But if they're inside of a subdivision, to throw, to slow it down for through traffic, if that homeowners association already maintains the front entrance, couldn't they be required to, if they pick that particular detail, that they maintain that also?
Well, they certainly could be. And when we get back to council with these types of recommendations, that will be part of the discussion as to whether or not the city is really capable of maintaining those or willing to maintain those.
Yeah. I think if they pick one that has, the landscape requirement, that they would be responsible for maintaining that. Or otherwise, they may have to go to some of just the speed humps. Nobody likes the speed humps. They usually end up wanting those taken out after they're put in. So I think some of these other requirements that have the landscape portion are going to be more attractive to a subdivision,
Right.
especially if it's trying to stop the through traffic, like Crooked Creek, but they're going to want something that has the landscape in it.
I'll say the effectiveness of any of these measures from a volume control standpoint really depends on the surrounding road network and where that traffic can go. So if you don't have an alternative route, these can be generally effective on speed control, but you may not see a change in the volume. If there's a better route to go, then they can also be effective from a volume control standpoint. But from the overall program standpoint, we're looking at these as speed control, not volume control standpoint.
What if they do ask you to take these out after they're put in? Will there be a cost? Will they have to pay for that to be removed?
After a certain time period, they'll be required to be in place for a certain time frame. After that, there's a lot of different things that come into play, and that's why you'll see in some of these details that Sarah is going to put up. The permanent measures, permanent vertical measures, the humps and lumps and things like that, once you install those, that road really becomes a city's responsibility, and any funding that we would receive from the state for topping a road, they won't come in and do that. And so we take full responsibility from that point forward for maintaining that road. Our LARP funding, some of the details that she has in here, you'll see removable speed humps and lumps. That's beneficial from our standpoint because we could go back and take them out. Any of those that are movable also, your first shot at putting these in may not be the best one. And the removable ones give you some flexibility to come back and adjust the plan. We have had some discussion of having some temporary measures where we would go in and install these initially, see how it works, and if it worked, if those locations functioned, we would come back and do permanent ones. But the cost of the temporary ones are about what you'll see for some of those permanent ones.
But, and Alpharetta's moved to using those rubber cushions, but, and it's, one of the reasons is after a number of years, some residents have asked for those to be removed, and they're easier to maintain, and they would have, the public works crew that could actually remove these easier than if you had the asphalt. So it's just worked out better. I know that, some people might think that they're not as aesthetically pleasing, but none of these are, if it's a hump or these rubber or asphalt, I think are going to make a big difference. It's just, I guess, the brightness of the pattern on top.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to have that yellow pattern
Oh,
on top.
yeah.
It could just be the
That's
white
horrible.
arrow instead of the arrow instead of the yellow grid. But I guess.
Well, I'll let Sarah step you
Can
through
I ask
some
you
of
one
the
other
details.
question?
Yes,
Like
sir.
in Milton, there's a lot of neighborhoods that don't really have subdivisions, or they're not really have homeowners associations, and how are you going to define, where you put these if the subdivision is going to only in subdivisions that have homeowners associations, or how do you actually figure out, who to contact and where to put these if they don't have a homeowners association?
Right, actually, the way the program is set up right now, the community comes to us. They come to us with a problem that they've identified. We go out and evaluate it, and we have a set of criteria that we look at. The speeds that we're seeing out there currently and whether or not they can be cut back down. The volume, so if you had a high-volume road over 4,000 vehicles per day, for instance, you wouldn't qualify. And we'll go back through, evaluate the community on that criteria, and then it either is in or out of the program. Currently, we have 9 subdivisions that have been approved to be part of the proposed program.
Really?
And there has to be some sort of binding entity. And so if you're not part of a homeowners association, we've got to have some way to ensure that you can pay your 50%. So I would imagine that there could be some scenario where a group of homeowners could get together that didn't necessarily have a homeowners association, but create an entity, a binding entity that could contract with the city to do this type of work. But those types of communities aren't in our program right now, and I would say that the 9 that we have to get through
Do we
will
have
be
a list
years
of
worth.
the 9?
I don't have that with me, but we can certainly get that to you.
I would very much like to know.
They are communities that came to us when we started this review of the existing program and were evaluated. Well, actually, there were probably close to 30. I'd say close to 30 communities that came to us requesting traffic calming, and these are the 9 that qualified under the criteria that were established by our consultant.
But they get to select which kind?
Well, what
As
we
far
wanted
as
to do,
looks?
we wanted to be able to work with the community to put in something that they would like and that we could maintain. And so that's why we felt if we had 4 different measures, that it would give a selection based on different criteria within the community. Each of these has a criteria with where it can be placed within the community, spacing, just to provide some variety in the program rather than just saying we're going to have a speed hump program and this is all we're going to do. We don't care if you like it or not. So you may see one of those in a community, one type, or you may see a variety. But we wanted to be able to work with the community to put something in the neighborhood they liked.
Another part of the criteria also was the posted speed limit of the road and the classification. So anything, I think 25 to 30 miles an hour, anything over that would automatically not move on to the next criteria. So it's typically going to be the residential subdivision type of streets.
So if it was above 30 miles an hour, there's no traffic calming capabilities.
Not under this program.
Not under this program.
Right.
Posted speed limit.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, right.
Posted.
Okay.
So are all these approved, the designs and everything already by?
Should we go through each one?
Well, nothing's been approved yet. I think we have 4 that Sarah will show you that we are looking at to be part of the program. And then she's included a number of slides in here to show you some examples of what they may look like in real life, either in this area or in other places in the country where they've been found.
I felt like in this presentation you'll see lots of pictures. In the packet, I know we sent out ahead of time. You have the standard engineering details for the measures, but said, they're still in the works. They don't have too much information about material or aesthetics or anything like what you'll see in some of these pictures. So we looked at two different type of basic measure, a vertical deflection and then horizontal. The vertical can be the speed cushions, humps, and tables, and then the horizontal, chicanes, center islands, and then traffic circles, which really for this case we're just looking at basically intersections that have a center island is the what we're looking at for what we're calling traffic circles according to these details. So these are just some of the things we'll look at as far as determining the placement for the vertical measures, the spacing, the grades, the curves, the distance to intersections, driveways, visibility, angle, and then, of course, utilities and keeping them away from fire hydrants as well. The vertical measures are going to be typically used on existing roads. They're easier to put into something that's already in place, whereas the horizontal, that's something we will look at incorporating more into new developments. But they can both be retrofitted onto existing roads. The vertical are just more typically used that way. The speed cushions, in our initial review of these details, that was the preferred option from our public safety, just because of the emergency vehicles, that the flat sections between the cushions allow for the emergency vehicles to pass through without having to significantly slow down. Speed humps are the most common vertical measure, and then the speed tables have the crosswalk. It's a speed hump with a crosswalk on top, and those would have to be coordinated with intersections. The materials for these are going to be concrete, asphalt, bricks, pavers, and rubber, and we'll look at pictures of some of the decorative options that can be used with these. And the estimates we have on cost for just the standard concrete, asphalt, or rubber range from $2,000 to $3,000 a piece. And then just some of the markings you'll notice in the pictures as well when we get to those. We'll be using the approved MUTCD, that's Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, the standard signs that they have that say speed bump or speed hump. And then we have options for additional traffic control with pavement marking, reflective tape, and then markings on the actual vertical measure. Then the horizontal measures, like I said, they're better incorporated with new construction, but they can be used as a retrofit as well. The chicanes in the pictures, you'll be able to see this better, but it basically shifts from 2 lanes down to 1 lane. So in certain volume roads, that might not be applicable because of the two-way traffic. Center islands reduce the lane width. And then the materials of these, the typical is a concrete curb, either a roll curb or a header curb, and there'll be pictures of those coming. And one thing that our consultant pointed out is that we could possibly use rubber curbs. And I've got, I think the very last page has pictures of those. And in the cost comparison, the rubber curbs were much less than the concrete curb. And decorative options with those include landscaping and just making sure that that doesn't block sight distance. And cost range, the rubber curbs were around $5,000 to $10,000, and then the concrete were $10,000 to $15,000. And the landscaping could add to that cost as well. some of the locations for these horizontal measures. See there. And then the markings for these aren't, has more to do with reflective markings on the curbs, just to prevent vehicles from hitting them. Okay, so we're going to get into some of the photos, and that's the handouts that I gave you. You've probably seen some of those pictures in the previous packet we sent out, but these actually have numbers on them, so you can refer to the numbers as you make comments on them. And some of the pictures may look similar. It's just a different angle of the same measure. So this first set of pictures is the rubber speed hump, and you can see the different types of markings and pavement markings that go along with those. And I don't know if we want to do comments as we go along, or
Let's
that,
do.
Okay.
I think on this one, and I'd already said, I prefer number 4 that just has the white instead of the yellow across the top of it. And there was actually on one of your details, you just had the arrow. And if that's allowed by the MUTCD, that would be even better, just limiting the reflective markings on the rubber.
Is it a requirement to have a marking?
I have a couple slides where there are no markings on these. I think that it's more of recommendations as far as the markings and the type of markings to use, but we think we would want to use something.
I think from the city standpoint, we have an obligation to make sure you're not surprised by this measure. And so through signage and through pavement marking, whether it's the raised little RPMs marking or marking on the actual traffic control measure, we'll look at it on a case-by-case basis. If there's good visibility, we'll probably drop that back. If it's in a location where the driver may be surprised by it in some way, we will need to step up the markings that we use both prior to and on top of the traffic control measure.
Okay.
And pictures 1, 2, and 3, there's a company that manufactures these, and that's what their website showed is how they come standard. There are, I know when we get to the speed cushion slide, those are more of a simple just a black cushion with the white marking. So there's probably variations from the manufacturing company.
Is there a difference in the feel? I mean, are some of these have a bigger bump than others, or?
Yeah, I think, and also the textured measures where it is actually the stamped concrete or the actual bricks are gonna create more of a rumble.
When you do the prefab ones like this, they're typically going to be a 3 to 4 inch rise. When we get into the speed tables that may be used in conjunction with the crosswalk, there'll be a larger rise, but a bigger top.
All right. Anything else on this one, or move to the next one? And some of these pictures are taken locally. Some are from different manufacturers' websites, and others are from just traffic calming websites in general.
Which one is local? Which ones are local?
Number 6 is the Wood Road, and numbers 7 and 8, those are the ones you took, Carter.
They're down in, it's really kind of the border of Dunwoody and Sandy Springs. I think they're actually in Sandy Springs in that neighborhood, off of Spalding, I think.
And that's real brick, not stamped concrete?
Yeah.
I think it's stamped, actually, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's all stamped concrete.
Is it?
I don't know.
Yeah, the stamped concrete looks
It's one of the best stamps.
a lot better. I know, it looks like real brick.
Yeah, I like that.
That's very nice.
number 6, is it just a painted green hump?
I think it's just
I think the
concrete
color.
color. I think it's just.
Yeah, the
Oh,
picture
it's
just,
just a concrete color. Can't tell.
It actually looks white if you drive over it.
Yeah.
Drive out on Blue Road.
I like the stamped concrete. That's
I
going to
do
be more
too.
expensive,
Yeah.
Either that or stamped asphalt these days too.
but we don't want to.
We don't want the whole
We
city
don't want
of
real
Milton to
brick
look
because
like.
that's just
Yeah.
so hard to maintain.
Yeah, you can't maintain it.
So number 6, that's like a dirt road or gravel road?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a concrete structure?
And number 9, that's,
Number 6 is just.
Well, I mean, that
I
works,
guess it-
that works
for-
on a gravel road.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
a gravel
'cause
road.
It's perfect for a gravel road.
blends.
yeah.
It's like
So I would
part of a
say-
culvert that got
I wouldn't want to see
wasn't
that.
covered all the way.
That's ugly.
I wouldn't want to see it elsewhere, but I think it would be fine if it was a gravel road.
Yeah.
and we haven't gotten any requests in the traffic calming program for the gravel roads yet, but
For the gravel road.
yet.
But you're ready.
They probably would not meet the minimum threshold for traffic. So we have a lower threshold of 400 vehicles per day. And we're seeing roughly 250 to a little over 300 vehicles per day on the busiest gravel roads.
Yeah.
Now, how many would you put in a neighborhood? I mean, would it just be at entrances, or, would there be a maximum, or?
It would
Spaced.
definitely, as part of the verification, we do a study in different locations to see the speed and the volume, and it would be there would be an additional study that would determine the best locations for them.
There would have to be some type of minimum or maximum distance
Mhm.
between.
Yeah, the vertical are 250 to 500 feet apart, but that's not along an entire stretch of roadway. You said that because of the location considerations with the grades or the curves.
And also, I guess the cost, you wouldn't want to have to pay for too many.
And Hopewell Plantation, is that the one that part of the subdivisions in Alpharetta and parts in Milton? And the part in Alpharetta has some traffic calming that was installed after the subdivision was built, and they only have maybe 3 measures along this stretch of roadway.
If they're too far apart, they are not effective. If you have enough room in between to get back up to speed, then well, you have 2 problems. One, you've now lost your effectiveness of the overall issue, and 2, the more, the longer area you have to get back up to speed, the more traffic noise you've got within the subdivision, so it kind of defeats the whole purpose.
Yeah, so those, on the Alpharetta side, it's only in Rhodes Plantation, so is Milton looking at extending that on the Hopewell Plantation side? Is that one of the subdivisions you're
Yes,
looking
ma'am.
at? To make that more effective stretch, I guess, through there. They actually have the landscape island, don't
Yeah.
they?
Which is pretty effective, because it narrows it.
Well, it was effective in reducing complaints.
So we have no comments really on 5 through 8?
I think those are good, as long as
Those
they're,
look good.
well, 12, oh, I'm sorry, I'm on 9, 10,
I
11.
know, you guys moved ahead.
I like
I just wanted to check them off before. So 5 through 8 are fine?
We said 6 would be okay if it was a gravel road
Yeah,
only.
yeah.
And then-
Is 6 still about a $2,000 fix? Number 6 on a gravel road still going to cost about $2,000?
I would think it would be cheaper.
I've heard those were actually paid for by the residents on Wood Road, and they're in Fulton County, and I've heard they were about $5,000.
Wow.
Yeah, because actually you're having to build the substructure below to anchor it in place.
That's right.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, versus the road where you just, you're having to really anchor it. So.
Okay.
You know, on number 7, is that, I can't tell in the picture, is that a yellow marking on it, or?
Those are little,
What is that?
It's just the picture.
It's reflectors.
Oh, it's a brick pattern?
It has that reflector.
It's zoomed
Stamped
out.
concrete.
Oh, I just didn't know if that was a yellow, oh, stamped concrete, okay, then that's fine.
Does doesn't look like it's very big.
Do you know if anybody wants to use number 9? Because that's pretty.
Is
9
nine still
and 11
stamped?
are in Milton. That is the Hayfield subdivision.
Off of
They're a
Providence?
private subdivision currently, but as part of their land disturbance plans, believe they were required to put them in at that time.
Those are pretty, but they would be expensive if they were on a Milton-maintained roadway. I think you can,
But you
everybody may like this, but they may
you can get
use a
some,
stamped
you can
concrete.
get some stamps that
Yeah.
are that rugged.
I don't
The
think,
advantage to the rugged is it
Doesn't matter.
it gives more
The noise, the tire.
of the tire and everything, so you tend to slow down on them more. And even one thing I was going to suggest is rumble strips before you even got to them, rather than painted signs or whatever. But grooved asphalt, 5 to 10 feet before you come to the hump itself. Where you just really groove the asphalt 90 degrees to the drive pattern, so when you first hit that, you get the tire rumble. It slows you down before you even get to the hump.
And
I've used this in some commercial applications before. It worked really pretty well.
I have seen some that are pretend. It's painted on a roadway. Faux. To look
speed
like.
bump.
Yeah,
I've
but
seen
if
them.
you did
They work.
that in front of a real one,
Yeah.
the
I've seen
person
them
would
in
slow
Florida.
down. But you can do it in places where people don't go every day and they slow down automatically. And they're cheap because it's just paint.
And but to get someone to faux paint it is expensive.
Yeah, but I don't know. There's some talented artists out there.
I
that
don't know
think
where you would put 12. I don't,
it's,
I like 12.
ooh, 12's ugly.
I mean, when we see stamped concrete next to 12, it just,
I mean, I see something like that at a, recreational park, but not in a neighborhood.
Or something.
oh.
Would any colored concrete or asphalt be something that?
Oh, a brick, I guess if it was going to be stamped, it should be a brick color, so a stained concrete.
But not to use the color as the cautionary.
Right.
words.
Oh, no.
When you say brick, do you mean a red brick type color or more of an earth color like number 9 and number 8?
I guess it depends on the area
Like
that
10's
you're
not
at,
bad.
but, 9,
Earth tone?
earth tone's going to look good, but I think that don't we have a red brick that's more prominent, though, in, say, the Crabapple area? Of course, those are not going to be 30 miles per hour, so it's not going to really matter.
I mean, the bricks that jumping ahead on 14 and 16
They have a more red,
have a little more red and brown.
and that would be
to those,
appropriate in a downtown
Yeah.
Yeah.
setting, like the crosswalk.
Sure.
Because you want them more visible, they're part of the decoration in the downtown area. You don't really want to decorate the street in the subdivision, you just want to get people to slow down and not notice it
Right.
as much.
We'll move on to 13. 16.
And I think, I think 17, those are, they're fitting the need if you're in a subdivision, just to have that just kind of blends in with the road. I think it should be an option that's allowed if it's somebody's subdivision, the homeowners association has discussed it and voted on it.
What's the difference between a speed cushion and a speed hump?
The distance between there's a track distance that's
So
speed
if you have
cushion.
a wide enough track, you don't hit it.
Right.
Like 19 and 20, I guess, on the back side of that. They just have the white arrow.
Yeah, and 18 shows that.
So you have to drive a Pontiac, then, a wide track Pontiac.
So you don't have, I know you have the fire trucks that can fit through there, but you don't have the problem problem where everybody just starts driving through those?
You'll hit one or the other.
Yeah, you
So
can't, it's too
one tire
wide.
can get in the
Okay.
gap for a normal car, but your other is gonna hit one of the bumps.
It's like skiing moguls.
Public safety?
Oh, I see, they're going over it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the gaps are spaced to hit the fire truck tires. The public safety likes those best because it
Sure.
doesn't limit their response time.
Oh, I see that.
And
this-
that's a major concern as
Yes.
well.
That's right.
You can get speed cushions that look like brick. Number, yeah, 23.
Yeah.
I guess that would be appropriate if it
And
was,
are they gonna feel
Downtown
differently
area.
when you go over them? Is there a distinct difference in the feel?
Between the brick and
Cushions
the
and-
rubber. Oh, the cushions and the humps.
Yeah.
From what we've read and seen, they function the same as a speed hump as far as
So you haven't driven
Slowing.
over them. You don't know how it feels.
I haven't.
Are they just as effective? It seems like they may not be.
The humps,
The cushions.
cushions.
Or you can just get one side of your car to go over it.
I think they are. It's a measure that's common in Roswell, and they've been pretty effective.
Yeah.
I don't know about the brick ones. I think that's a picture we got from somewhere. It's not a local installation, right, Sarah?
Right. I think that one's actually not in the country either. I think it's in Europe.
Would be the first.
those would be nice, but it was, I don't know that a subdivision's gonna pay for that look. It might be good for, if they did put it in the downtown, I mean, the crabapple or some of the overlay areas.
If you were doing this all out of stamped asphalt, you could do a speed cushion application, but still do a full stamped asphalt look, so that it looked like a crosswalk or something like that.
That's a good idea.
I like the chicanes and center islands as long as they have landscaping in them. Ground cover instead of grass, because nobody's gonna maintain that grass, but a ground cover is just easier to maintain. And then the larger ones, I think, you can put some type of a shrub or crepe myrtle, some type of small tree, and reduce the amount of hard surface.
Are you required to have the signs in all of the islands?
Yes, sir. They do need to be signed appropriately.
And the approach as well, correct?
And the approach, right. We'll have a warning sign prior to any measure, regardless of which one is chosen by the homeowners association.
But if you have a center island, you have to have a lollipop sign in the center island?
Yes, sir. Now, does it need to look exactly like that? We might be able to come up with a better sign than that, but we will need to have some warning to make sure you get around the island safely.
But the purpose of the sign is to be seen, so.
Three- 3 foot high,
Yeah, but then when you look
2 foot
at,
diameter bollard will do it too.
you look at that center island on 33, I mean, there's so much green, you don't really see, that sign's not as in your face.
Are you thinking that the chicanes and the center islands are gonna be funded at all by the city, or is it just?
I don't know if anybody's gonna choose that, that's gonna be expensive.
Well, there's a potential, on a retrofit situation, if they qualify, then yes, the city would be paying half of that cost.
It's good. Like
If
just-
approved by the council, we still have to go back to the council with these
Yeah, but just a
recommendations.
little box.
And
That
these
would be
four
easy to
measures.
maintain.
If they're done initially with the subdivision.
Well, yeah.
cost would be-
Yeah, by subdivision, I have a problem there.
And then 39 is so attractive.
So if they have the chicanes or the center islands, require landscaping unless hardscape, a
Yes.
tree think it should be maintained by the homeowners association.
How about 31? Any thoughts on that, where you have a combination of both landscape and
Hardscape. Well, I think it needed, the only thing I see wrong with that is it needed a tree in the middle just to, because you have those tall signs, something in the middle that was a small tree, whether it's a crepe myrtle or something.
Yeah,
Actually, and I don't know, well, I guess you could put evergreen there, but it would, like a holly. Or I don't know if you need that low branch.
Yeah. Crepe myrtles are gonna be thin on the bottom, grow tall.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you gotta have it limbed up and all.
But there may be something that the arborist could recommend. There's some, because these other ones have some small trees and,
Now, so who would like
Crepe
number
myrtles.
45 in their neighborhood? Terry?
I just think they could have
Would you like
extended that
45?
planting area, limited the hardscape. 33 is great, 34, 35, 36. These are real islands. They've been there for a long time.
Those
Yeah,
islands
these
are
are-
actually in the same neighborhood as the stamped concrete, and there'll be another road narrowing picture in here too, over in Sandy Springs / Denver.
Yeah, it's down by the Catholic church. Yeah.
There's a private
Same.
school right across the street?
Yeah.
Yes, sir, that's it.
See, 37 has the low shrub with a tree. I mean, they have the sign, but they have that.
37 is in Hopewell Plantation.
38 doesn't look like it has a sign.
Yeah, we like that one.
40 looks really bad.
Yeah, just a concrete island is.
Yuck. 39 needs some plans.
Yeah, a little bit.
Maintenance.
And
39's in a subdivision that has a few lots in it in Milton, but that was just one that had been also incorporated with the.
That's my envisioning of what, if City of Milton has to maintain it, is.
That's why no grass, shrubs, and
Yeah.
ground cover.
Nothing, yeah.
Something
Now,
self-sustaining.
that rubber curbing is horrible. looking at it.
Where is that?
42.
UFOs.
I don't like that.
I don't like that either. I don't know that.
I think
you
part of
said
it's the
temporary.
applications that it's showing, all of them are just solid pavement.
Isn't that usually a temporary measure anyway? When you put the rubber curbing?
I would tend to think it would be, but I mean, it could be a permanent. I don't know.
I mean, I don't,
Do they have to have a certain distance behind it solid for it to be able to be maintained, or is it? Because in this case, it looks like, everything is hardscape behind it in order to keep it bolstered enough to be able to not just kind of move all over the place. So I don't know whether, you could do it and still have landscaping behind it. It might work. That would be a question I guess you'd need to ask the manufacturer.
Would the rubber photo degrade after a while?
Yeah.
Well, any color will, yeah, but I mean, any color you use, if it's a painted stain or anything, it's going to be.
I mean, the material itself even,
I don't know. Good question.
just through all the weathering.
I know rubber tires, when they sit,
Sure.
degrade, dry rot, so rubber would do the same.
And the recommendation on those was to have the reflective strips every so many feet along the rubber curb.
Don't like it.
I don't like that either. I think it would be okay if you want to temporarily see how people are going to react, like they did at Mid-Broadwell and Mayfield. They did a temporary fix right there.
Just create a temporary circle there.
And I think it was just rubber curbing, but I don't think it's a permanent measure. I think that's all.
All right, so our next actions are to take these comments to council work session in October and plan to work on getting this revised policy in November.
Great.
Great.
Looks
Thank
like
you
it's
all
going to
for
be
your
a
comments.
successful
Thank you.
program.
Any other agenda items? Motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do you want any of this?
Yeah, do you want these